Hi, it's Jonathan Castellane from Liberty Title. I'm here with Eric Rakinis, all-star residential and commercial real estate advisor, and we're here to talk all things macro, real estate, and everything else in between. Well, corporations, I agree with you.
Corporations,
Corporations, they
they're
build their balance sheet and they don't put it through.
and stock and it's, stock buybacks or dividends to their investors,
Right.
which is,
That's fair.
you know, so no, they're not.
I don't know what do you think the split between personal tax regime and corporate tax regime is in America? Because that what you're saying is the corporations insource the economics and don't spend it. But if you and I get a tax break, I think we're gonna do something with it.
That's exactly right. So let's go back to the 2008,
Right, the financial
the
crisis.
great financial crisis,
Yeah,
right? And the administration that came into office right after the great financial crisis,
yeah,
basically the genesis of the great financial crisis. So right around 2007, the
yeah.
following
I
administration,
think we can call it out. Was a Barack Obama?
it was the Obama administration.
Right.
So you had Bush before that,
Mhm.
and great financial crisis, lenders lending to doing the subprime
Yep.
mortgage thing, lending to anybody based on the application, written out on the
Everyone
back of the
had 3 or 4
napkin.
homes. They put derivatives on the housing market. There was way too much leverage. There was Ninja, remember? There was
Right.
no.
No income, no job
Yeah.
application. Yep.
So that sort of ran through the market, and then suddenly you have housing dipping and people saying, "Hey, these mortgages are still due." Like, the lenders are saying, "Hey,
Mhm.
you got 3 homes,
Mhm.
and you."
You're over leveraged.
Yep,
You're unemployed because the unemployment rate spiked to what, 12%?
right.
Okay. So when I started selling real estate in 2011,
Yep.
I was selling, and we're in Port St. Lucie. So at the time, a lot of the Port St. Lucie was built in 2004, 2005, 2006,
Okay.
right? So this is 5 years after that, after a lot of the foreclosures already
Yep.
had
So pretty new housing star.
3 to 4 or 5 years old,
That's good.
right?
Yeah,
However, there were so many vacant properties.
right,
The price per square foot in Port St. Lucie was somewhere around $45 a square foot.
right.
Now, to compare that to today's market, we're at like $250 a square foot.
Okay.
All right.
Interesting.
So $45 a square foot. When I bought my house in 2009 here, I paid $55 a square foot.
Wow.
A 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2,000 square foot concrete block home, 3 years old, barrel tile roof, brick paver driveway, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances for
And you
$115,000.
liked it.
I loved it.
Good.
Oh, it was great because I came up from Palm Beach County
Okay.
where everything was still expensive.
Right.
It was basically a brand new house in comparison to everything that was built in the 1970s down
Right,
there,
right, right.
right? Wood frame,
Mhm.
1,400 square
Is it
foot.
on the west side? St. Lucie West?
Mine was in 34953.
Okay.
And
Got it.
so the guy that helped me buy, or the guy that talked me into, or the guy that helped me buy my house,
Yep.
talked me into getting my real estate license. He said, you do well at it. So I said, okay, fine. After about 18 months of hemming and hawing, right? And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And um, didn't know much about the real estate market, but I was selling those houses for literally. I had customers tell me that those houses, 2,000 square foot, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom homes,
Yeah.
were overpriced at $95,000,
Right.
at $100,000. Thinking like, no, 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 it's way too expensive.
Yeah.
That house is way overpriced at $100,000.
And it's since quadrupled.
Exactly, it has at least median sales price, median home value in Port St. Lucie now is about $430,000.
Right.
So
So do you see, let me ask you this, do you see the same phenomenon happening in today's market? Because
no,
there's okay.
no, I don't see the same problem happening now.
Okay.
Here's why: everybody was up, upset about the legislation that the government put into place
Okay.
following like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right?
Okay.
Bad guys, right? But
Yeah.
these people, you know, anti-business, anti whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the Consumer Financial Protection.
The pendulum always swings, right? Like you had framework that was too loose, too
Mhm.
much leverage, and then suddenly they tighten
Deregulation.
right. And
Right.
the pendulum swings and they tighten it up.
Right. So
Right.
they tightened it up since, and I remember when I did buy my house and I went through the mortgage application process. I was
Right.
like, man, this is horrific. They want
Right.
everything. They want to know my shoe size. They want to know what minute I was born in the
Yeah.
hospital. They want to know everything about me.
Right.
Right. However, those regulations have been stringent ever since. So 2009 to 2025,
Yeah.
everybody who's purchased a home and financed since then using any kind of FHA,
Yep.
VA, even conventional loans, you got to go through a lot to
Yeah.
qualify. They really do their homework
Yep.
in, in opposition to what they did prior, what the lender
Agreed.
was required to do prior to approval.
The underwriting this cycle has been very good, right?
Yes, exactly. So why I don't believe that we're going to see anything like a repeat of the great financial crisis,
Right.
the foreclosure issues,
Yeah.
the amount of foreclosures, the spike in real estate inventory is
Yeah.
because if you've purchased a home since 2009,
Yeah.
you have more than likely paid a lower interest rate than what the interest rates are now.
Interesting.
And home values have increased dramatically. And if you bought the home and you stayed there and you didn't do anything, stupid,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Like over leverage your house, take out
Yeah.
more mortgages, those types of things. People are in equitable positions.
Yep.
Most homeowners in the country, if you've been there and you played your cards right,
Yeah.
which most people
Yeah.
have equity in their homes.
I want to say I saw a stat like 45% of American homes are fully equitized, like there's no mortgage on it. It's
That's
like
quite a few.
is a big number.
Yeah, right. So, I don't believe we're going to see anything like that ever again
Yeah.
in our lifetimes,
I agree.
because those particular conditions that lenders were allowed to,
Yeah.
approve loans at
Right.
are never going to, hopefully, will never ever show themselves again.
I 100% agree with you on the underwriting standards. It's been a very tight underwriting, which is good. My question to you is, in that scenario where you were told in 2011 when you bought your home,
2009 was when I bought.
2009, and you paid 99,000 and people were hemming and hawing that you were paying too much. So for new home buyers now at, let's just say the entry price is high 300s, low 400s, is that too expensive?
It's an interesting question, right? So the first time home buyer right now is dealing with a lot of issues.
Right.
Interest rates, although a lot of people in the government, in our industry, say, hey, interest rates have to come down
Right.
in order to improve affordability.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that's the answer. I really don't. And here's why. We're at we just discussed it, 6.5 to 7%.
Yeah. 6 3/4.
So 6.75
Yeah.
today on our mortgage rates. If the mortgage rates come down,
Right.
let's say the mortgage rates came down to 5.5%. What does that do to demand?
Right.
What does it do to demand? It spikes it.
Right. It definitely improves it.
There's so many people sitting on the sideline for a couple of reasons. One, the affordability, but two, and almost a bigger problem
Yeah.
is the locked in effect.
Yeah.
Because if you bought a house, say anywhere between 2019 and 2022, you qualified for an interest rate of somewhere around 3 to 3.5%. And I have this discussion quite a bit with people who are thinking about selling their homes and where they're going to go and what they're going to buy next and what that's going to look like. Because we have to always start with the end in mind,
Yeah.
right? So you look at where you want to go and what you're going to be and the type of a loan that you're going to originate.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to go from a 3 to 3.5% to a 6.5% or 6.75% loan.
It's a negative carry.
People are like,
Mhm.
absolutely not. I'd rather just stay here. I mean, there's people who want to get divorced, who,
Yep.
don't want to live there anymore. And they just were like, well, I'm not willing to
Yeah.
give up this 3% mortgage. So you have your locked in effect, and you have this fact that in the beginning of this decade,
Yeah.
we were realizing a 20 to 30% year over year annual appreciation, year over year appreciation in
Equity prices,
home
yeah. Home
prices,
Yeah. Right.
right? So that was the biggest problem, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Interest rates, if you see a reduction in interest rates right now,
Yeah.
we're going to see a bunch of people jump off, bunch of buyers
Yep.
who are currently renting, jump out of that and into the home market, try to buy. And we're going to see bidding wars. We're going to see people fighting over these houses.
Forget it, inventory, right?
Right.
Good stuff.
Right. They're gonna
Sure.
go after whatever inventory is available. Which, I mean, right now we could use a little bit more demand in our inventory because our
Yeah.
inventory is spiking. I think it's been a 15% or so increase in
Yeah.
inventory within the first half of the year in the real estate market. Dramatic
Right.
increase.
Fear of missing out.
Well, yeah. So I mean, we've seen people list their homes,
Yeah.
and it's not a matter of we have an abnormal amount of people listing homes.
Yeah.
We have an abnormal amount of homes selling. So the homes that are being listed are sitting a lot longer.
Because the prices are not realistic, I believe. Well, you tell me. What do you think?
So here's my opinion on prices,
Yeah.
right? When, as a real estate broker, we discuss pricing strategies,
Yep.
what do? we look back at the last 6 months of home sales.
Okay.
And in the last 6 months, there hasn't been a dramatic change. Normal appreciation, maybe 2 to 3%.
Gotcha.
But the seller's thinking, well, you know,
I want that 6-month price.
I want the 2022 price.
Okay.
I think this house is worth at least $450,000 when
Yeah.
more than likely it's probably worth closer to like 375.
Wow.
Yeah, you find the buyer that is
Yeah.
going to take that might jump after the 425 or the 450.
Yeah.
But homes were selling in 2020, 2021, and 2022 for over 100% list price.
Right.
Over 100%.
Well,
Normal prior to that was right around 96%. And we're
it's a
seeing a
pretty big
much larger.
haircut. I mean, if you say you go from 450 to 375, that's coming straight out of your equity.
Well,
So
what is
different.
an interesting term, equity? What is equity?
Yeah, it's what you have saved that's not due to the bank in your property. So
So the difference between your loan balance, your
yeah.
principal balance, your payoff on your
Yeah.
mortgage,
Yeah.
and what you make on your house,
Yeah.
what you sell it for.
Yeah.
So people have an interesting interpretation of what equity.
Well, your mortgage balance isn't going to change. You list the property,
Right.
you still owe the money to Wells Fargo.
The variable is the sales price.
But if you were banking on 400 and you sell it for 375, the 25 comes out of your equity.
So your feels are in the 425 or the 450,
Right.
but the market isn't bearing that
Right.
anymore. I'll give you an example. All right. I worked with a lady recently right over off of Becker Road.
Yeah.
I helped her sell her house in St. Lucie West.
Okay.
We sold it in 2022, the beginning of 2022.
Okay. That was a good sale.
It was a good sale. We were setting records.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was all proud of myself because, hey, I got the highest price per square foot in
Yeah.
Lake Forest at one point, right?
Yeah.
She built with Lennar. Excuse me. She built with Lennar, bought a brand new home.
Yeah.
I forget what she paid for it, but she wanted $550,000 for the house, which, $550,000 is just a number.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
When we first met, and because I helped her sell her house in Lake Forest, she had gone directly to the builder before we had met and contracted to build this new home.
Yeah.
Right. So she got CO'd and moved into that home, was disgusted with the builder, didn't like, had such a hard time, and then ended up not liking the neighborhood anyway, and ended up wanting to be closer to more activity and more friends and so on and so forth. Right.
Sure.
So she calls me and says, I want to sell my house and I want you to do it. Right. So I go and I said, look, I've done the research. Your house, in my opinion, is worth about $495.
Okay.
She's like, I want $550. And I'm like, look, the builder's still building.
Yeah.
In your community.
New products coming out, which is competitive.
Brand new homes, and competitive because builders are offering incentives. They're offering lower interest rates. They're offering closing costs.
Yeah.
Tackling a lot of the pain points that buyers are having. Right. However, they can sell their house at maybe a $550,000 or $540,000 because at a lower interest rate, if it's a buyer that's financing, their monthly payments are going to be lower.
Okay.
Right. The
Yep.
brand new home is going to have a slightly lower insurance rate than the slightly used home.
Yeah.
So there's some factors there as to why the builder can outsell.
Well, you're the first person to live in it, right? And then we're not worried about the inspection. We know the roof is new. We know the
Warranties.
fixtures, the warranties.
Yeah,
the fixtures
warranties
the way they
come with
like it.
Right.
It's not someone else's.
Right. You don't know
Segment of their
what somebody else, if somebody, the other guy never changed the AC filter or, abused the washing machine or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So, you have a lot of those variables that make a brand new home a little bit more competitive
Right.
than resale homes.
Right.
But this lady was like, well, so we listed in, I think, let's see, it was October. So probably around March, April, in 2024.
Yep.
And I told her, I said, look, your house, the market is telling me the comparable sales are telling me your house is worth probably around $495. The market's changed. It's not the same as it was as when we sold your house the first time. She said, no, I want $550.
Yep.
I said, okay, no problem. Okay, we'll let, but she also said, look, we'll talk about it. We're not in a rush.
Yeah.
We want to move, but we want to get our price. We're not in a rush, and we'll get into the holidays. And if it doesn't sell by the holidays, then we'll take it off the market, and then you can relist it when, after Thanksgiving is what she said. She's like, okay, it was after Christmas. She's like, after Christmas, maybe the first of the year, we'll relist it with you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, okay, and I probably should have known better, right? I should have structured a price reduction in the listing agreement.
Yeah.
However, I trusted her. She was a past client. And so she kind of ran me through the ringer and said, "Oh, I'm not dropping it now. I'm not reducing. We want to keep it at 550,
Yep.
but if it doesn't sell, we're not in a rush. We'll take it off before Thanksgiving and then relist it with you in January."
It's almost shadow inventory, right? Because you're the expert. You've said, hey, there's demand here. And you're trying to deal with the mental accounting. "Oh, I just want a round number that, makes me happy."
Right.
But you're saying the market will bear
And that's
495.
that's where the discussion of equity comes in. Like,
Yeah.
how much equity do you actually have?
Right.
Like, okay, in your mind, you think you have
Yeah.
X amount of equity, but realistically, if you're looking realistically at the market,
Yeah.
do you actually have that much equity? So the equity definition is what you owe on your principal balance
Yeah.
and what you sell your house
And the thing
for.
not owed, basically. I mean, let's just call it that. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, right. So how much you walk away with, that's your equity, right? So, of course, I'm talking to her
Yeah.
in January. She's like, "No, we're not going to list it with you. We're going to go with somebody else." And she ended up listing it again with another agent that was, which is fine, great.
it's tough.
See what they
You told
let's,
her.
let's see what they can do. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's,
Okay.
I got burned. I shouldn't have trusted, but that's the nature of the business. It is what it is, right? We don't enjoy it. I spent money on marketing and photography
Yeah.
so my expenses, my time, my, the time that we invest in analyzing the market, the time we invest.
And the valuable advice that you gave her.
Exactly.
I met with another realtor, again, a top, a leading realtor here in St. Lucie and Martin County, like you are, and he won't take those listings.
No, I won't either. Not anymore.
If people are unrealistic, he doesn't want to describe exactly what you went through because
Exactly. It's a waste of money. I'm out my time.
Yeah.
I'm out my investment.
Right.
Because as a listing agent, we're always the first ones invested in the sale of a home.
Right.
From a monetary standpoint and from a matter of, an analysis, right?
Yeah.
We don't just go out to a house
Yeah.
and say, "Oh, let's figure it out now." If I get a phone call and somebody tells me they want to sell their asset,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the market immediately and saying, "Okay, where do I think what's the market doing? What is the dynamics? Where do I think the value of this home is?" I don't care about your backsplash.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't.
Yeah.
Your backsplash isn't gonna make you an extra $5,000.
Right.
I don't really care about your fixtures. I don't care about a lot of this stuff. People look at homes.
Yeah.
It's a structure and a location. It's a certain size, square footage, number of bedrooms and bathrooms,
What do
or
they call that? Functional obsolescence, I think. The backsplash.
functional obsolescence being,
Backsplash is nice, but it's yours.
exactly. It was, somebody might buy it and rip it out anyway. They don't like it, right? So we don't take those things. Of course, seller. When you talk to somebody, people that are very emotionally invested in their homes, they go, "Oh, that's amazing, great, excellent taste on your backsplash. Good job." It's not going to make you any more money.
Yeah.
I can very much promise you that. So, um, you know, to this day, that house is still on the market.
Wow.
She dropped it, I think, to 539. But the thing is that while I had that property listed, I got offers. I got offers and I negotiated up. Somebody came in, I think, around 495, right where I said
where
it
you
was
said,
going to
yeah.
price. I negotiated them up to 525. And at the time, had she taken that offer, she'd have been the highest price per square foot in the community sale.
Mhm.
And to this day, because homes prices have dropped, she would have beat the builder.
Right.
She'd have made as much money as she's ever going to make in that community. And to this day, she's lost money because she's basically trying to catch a falling knife.
Yeah.
The market peaked in 2022.
Yeah.
Right. And now we've seen inventory climb back up.
Yeah.
We've seen seller competition. We've seen rates go back up.
Yeah.
And so you're directly competing with the builders.
Mm-hmm.
And you're directly competing with all the inventory that's hit the market. So you cost yourself money by not listening to your advisor,
Right.
right? The person who's like, "Okay, I'm offering you this advice for free based on my 15 years of experience. You don't think it's a good idea? Oh, you just want to run it your way.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So where's that got you? You lost money. You thought
This would
about
be a few.
carrying costs, taxes,
Yeah.
depreciation, dilapidation of the home, wear and tear. So even now, at 495, then
Right.
it's still not going to sell for. It's not going to sell 495 now.
Right.
We've lived in it longer. Now your appliances are older. Now your roof is older. Your AC is older.
Well, I guess what you're saying is it may take a few years to burn off that mentality of like, hey, I want that comp.
So
Because
Yeah. So
Hopefully we'll get there.
I made that observation about the story I saw on the news with Jay Powell and our president
Yep.
walking through um
Yeah. This was fascinating. I love your take on this. So let's
the Fed
yeah,
share
yeah,
remediation,
right.
right? And I'll skip the part about them,
Yeah.
you know, having a discrepancy between how much it actually costs.
Yeah.
It's costing the
For
government.
those that don't know, there was a refurbishment at the central bank, and there's been a big sort of digression as to whether it was 3 billion that was put into the bank,
3.2, actually
3.2.
3.2 or 2.7 billion,
Yeah,
I
so the
think.
Fed chair is saying we only put this much in. I believe there's a gold toilet somewhere sitting around, but
Probably at least
let's
one.
yeah.
At least one.
Anyway, so he's sort of in this quagmire of, all right, so what did we spend on the refurbishment? And then the executive is sort of saying, what was he saying?
So he's telling Jay Powell,
Yeah.
our Fed chair, that he needs to drop the federal funds rate. Right. So of course we've seen a lot of that pressure coming out of the executive branch
Yeah.
for the and listen, I am a total believer in full independence of the Fed. I feel that the Fed has to be politically unbiased. They've got the dual mandate, full employment. It was a full employment and
Inflation.
stable, stable inflation,
Yeah.
right? So unemployment or
Yep.
maximum employment and controlling of
Not
inflation.
an easy problem to solve.
Either one.
Because
You've got
if the job market gets hot, then inflation goes up.
yeah. And so, right, you've got wage inflation,
Yeah.
you've got increased cash flow, that side of
Right.
things, right? So, man, honestly, based on what we've been through over the past 5 years with inflation as well as a pandemic,
Yeah.
my opinion and my humble opinion is that Jay Powell's done a pretty good job at dropping the inflation without causing a dramatic recession. Because if you look at history in the past, when the Fed chair has been very aggressive, and our Fed chair was aggressive on inflation,
Yep.
right? In the past, when Fed chairs have been aggressive on inflation,
Like Volcker.
exactly.
Yeah.
What was the result of that?
Crash the economy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Dramatic spike in unemployment.
Yeah.
Right. So, have we seen a spike in unemployment? No. Our unemployment rate is still at what, 4.5%, something around there. 4.7.
I
Is it?
100% agree with you. The problem with the U.S. economy is there's no problem with the U.S. economy. Like everything's going pretty well, and I'm not going to argue with the Stanford guy. I mean, like I think he's done a great job,
Yeah.
as you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think what we're saying is the executive branch is saying, "Hey, Mr. Powell, we'll figure out this refurbishment thing, but as you drop rates, like,
Right.
proactively saying this is where we're going. Otherwise, we're counting down till May 2026 when you leave."
Oh, well, he's out. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. May 26th, he's gone.
And then, the Mr. President will put someone in, which will do exactly as he pleases, which that might
We'll
get to,
see.
yeah,
I'm hopeful that the new Fed chair, whoever he puts in,
yeah,
will observe a more traditional approach.
yeah,
I don't I'm hoping not to see them on the news every other day,
agreed.
saying all kinds because look, the president's saying, certain things on air.
Yeah,
Any president, not just the
yeah,
current administration, but any president is considered presidential executive branch policy,
yeah,
right? The current, amount of policy coming out of the executive branch flowing through our news channels
yeah,
has been slightly elevated over the past
yeah,
7 months, right? Um, but I think we've all just kind of gotten used to that.
yeah.
When the Fed chair says something, our markets fluctuate on a second by
Right.
second basis.
Those are the real fundamental things
Exactly.
because
So
policy will ebb and flow with administration. Like, it could be another 2.5 years and then we're on to something else, right?
theoretically, the administration has got to normally contend with the other two branches,
Right,
or at least the legislative branch
right.
to impose policy or to
Yeah,
implement policy,
yeah,
right? So there's usually a process.
right.
Seems like that process has kind of gone down the tubes with a lot of executive
Yeah,
orders and so on and so forth. However, the president's saying one thing on the news in the press conferences, one thing or another is one
yeah.
thing. The Fed chair, when he makes a statement,
Mhm.
that holds a lot more weight, it seems to these days.
Agreed.
You can see it in the stock market, when the Fed chair makes a statement,
Yeah,
either if he's thinking about dropping rates,
yeah,
saying something like, is as is docile as saying, "Oh, we're thinking about dropping rates in Q4 of 2025."
Yeah, exactly. That's best in it.
Markets are going to spike immediately,
Right.
right? You're going to see the stock markets, just explode based on that type of stuff because
Right.
they take it seriously.
Yeah.
Everybody, understands that like this is, it was calculated,
He's more impactful
right?
as a central banker of the world than, the president who's got an agenda.
Seems to
too.
be.
Yeah.
Right, which is why we want that full independence, in my
Right.
opinion. However, so at that, discussion dialogue at the Fed chair or the central bank,
Yep.
Donald, our president,
Yep.
Donald Trump is, you know, influencing,
He's job
doing his
opening.
best. He is doing his best to
Yeah.
get our Fed chair to drop interest rates.
Yeah.
And what he said afterwards was that we need the federal funds rate to go down
Mm-hmm.
so that mortgage rates will go down because we have an affordability crisis
Right.
in our housing market. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yep.
I don't agree that if you drop the federal funds rate, we're going to see a dramatic reduction in the mortgage rate.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, the federal funds rate ticked down just a tad last year.
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw was a slight increase in mortgage rates.
Right.
So the leadership of our country
Yeah.
feels that a reduction in the Fed rate would improve affordability.
Yeah.
I tend to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
So, any thoughts?
That's a super interesting point. I mean, what you're saying is that one, the market will discount it, right? So they can drop federal funds rate, but really, if it doesn't show up into the 10-year Treasury, which mortgages are tethered to, and the 10-year Treasury is trading every day, like it's seeing your observation, which is like, hey, the executive branch is jawboning the Fed. Hey, well, we'll deal with this refurbishment issue when you drop rates. So the 10 years kind of grinding lower, and we've seen that this week. Rates are a little lower, right? But you're talking about the discounting mechanism, and if we're if we know the Fed's going to drop rates in the fourth quarter of 2025, it's probably already in the market. It's already in the rate,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Businesses
And
are
affordability is not just the rates charged by the lenders. We're talking about insurance. We're talking about like
there are a lot of factors to affordability.
taxes are mushrooming.
Mhm.
So affordability, the lenders, I mean, the lenders kind of they have different products. They'll do rate buy downs, all these things. But we talk about the full swath of what it costs to be a homeowner. Taxes, insurance, et cetera, outside of what the lender's going to charge you. That's really where things are getting out of control.
Yeah, the affordability crisis, the affordability issues in the housing market, in my opinion, I don't believe are a function of mortgage rates.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we said,
Yeah.
6.75
Yeah.
percent on a mortgage rate. Historically, how high have we seen mortgage rates go?
Up to 14, right?
Right, right. I've seen as low as 2.9
Yeah.
or 2.8%
Yeah.
in the early part of this decade.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And I didn't feel so as a broker
Yeah.
selling homes in that market,
Mm-hmm.
it was quite easy to sell a home if you were representing a seller.
Right.
If you were representing a buyer,
Yeah.
that was ugly. You had to steal.
Well, you had bidding wars, and then
We had a lot of bidding wars,
Yeah.
right? So I remember as a listing agent, I would have buyer's agents call me and make me crazy offers
yeah.
outside of the contract
Right.
to, help me, ask me to try and influence my sellers to go with their contract.
But you're in contract.
So when we were receiving offers,
Yeah.
right, you would get 10, 15 offers on every single listing that we listed.
Yeah.
And I'd have buyer's agents calling me and saying, hey, listen, I'll buy your year's worth of pizza. And I like pizza. You can tell. I like pizza. Right? I love pizza, man. Like a year's worth of pizza holds a lot of weight.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
It's a lot of
But
spices.
it's it, man. Pepperoni too. So, it was exciting
Mm-hmm.
until you realize that for every offer that you accepted, there was 14 other buyers who had to go back to battle and try and find another home.
You know what's super interesting? It just dawned on me. Like back then, you're saying if you had the listing, you had a deal.
Exactly.
Now, if you have a good buyer, you got the deal.
Yes, exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly right.
That is interesting.
That is exactly right. As a listing agent,
Yeah.
you got a listing, the most difficult part about that market, aside from rejecting 14 other potential buyers or tenants,
Yeah.
was going through all the offers. There were every single listing. I would print all the offers that we got, go into the conference room, spread them out on the table, highlight all the different terms and conditions, and try and weigh
Yeah.
which one was better. That was when we had the escalation clauses come
Okay.
around. You don't see those escalation clauses anymore, do you?
Yeah. No, I
No,
haven't seen them.
no, that's when those escalation clauses like, hey, my buyer is willing to do 5,000 better than the next best buyer.
Okay.
Right? That's
Now we're at de-escalation.
right, exactly. Right. If somebody else comes in lower, we want to go drop to that price. But no, that's when you had people that were waiving their mortgage, waiving their financing contingency, waiving their inspection contingency, offering their firstborn son,
Yeah.
or a bodily organ or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. And as a buyer, you got beat up. That was not a buyer's market at all. I mean, we had 0.06 months of inventory,
Yeah.
0.6% or a 0.6 of a
Yep.
60%, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
Take that part out. I sound like a moron. Uh, zero point 0.6 months of inventory.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, if nothing else came on the market
2 weeks.
at that time, it would take a little bit over 2 weeks to sell everything on the market.
Yeah.
Right. So I remember, say, houses, I would put them up for a lease. Right. And I remember a specific instance where I got a call from a lady who, had a family, a husband, a few kids, a couple dogs,
Yeah.
and had just gotten the call that her landlord was selling the house they had been leasing for like 5 years. And they had to be out 30 days.
Wow. It's quick.
She didn't have good credit. She didn't have good income. She's a family.
Yeah.
6 heads
It's a real problem.
and 2 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
No, your income's not great and your credit's not great.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? We have 7 other applications for that same house for lease.
Yeah.
And it's not my place to make a decision on which tenant the landlord just decides to go with.
Yeah.
However,
You're trying to help solve
the
the problem.
landlord is I'm going to just lay it all out there because that's what I have to do. I'm required and, forthcoming with all the information.
Yeah.
But I'm required to present everything. And the landlord,
Not everyone does that, by the way.
really?
Well, I mean, look, people do what they want to do.
Okay.
It's a gunslinger market. You're a very, virtuous person. You play by all the rules, but you'd be surprised how many people filter offers, tenancies, all.
It's so surprising to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Sad.
I presented everything, right? And you just you break everything out and say, okay, they've got this, and this.
Yeah.
Here's your options, Mr. Homeowner.
Yep.
Who do you want to lease to? Well, they're going to go with the safest bet,
Yep.
which is the, at the time, real world scenario.
Yeah.
It was an older couple who was retired and had great income and a
It's an
great
income
credit
stuff,
score.
right? It's just solely.
It was just two
Yeah.
people. It was 2 people,
Yeah.
not the family of 5 with 2 dogs.
Yeah.
It was the 2 people with good credit and steady fixed income.
Mhm.
And that's who they ended up going with. So that market, in my opinion, although as a listing agent, you knew you were going to sell what you had, what inventory you had,
Yeah.
it was ugly. And I'm glad it's over.
Right.
I'm glad it's gone. I don't ever want to see that come back
Right.
because my heart, it was hard to make those phone calls and say, I'm sorry. They decided to go with someone else.
And what happened to them? Did they found a place eventually?
They weren't my tenants. I don't know.
Okay.
They called me directly, but I mean, I was,
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
what I love about this business is like you really make an impact. Like you're doing things for that you see the outcome. Like this family has a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
I do love that.
Whether it's a realtor or
Sure.
title company or
I've made lifelong
Vendor.
friends in this business.
Yeah.
Just from treating people right. Just from letting them know that my
Yeah.
priorities are yours.
Yeah.
I am going to, I'm putting your interests ahead of my
with
own.
a tangible benefit. Like we could make an investment, we make money, it's just on paper. What do we do?
Right.
We did it for us.
Mhm.
But we're actually impacting families and seeing people into the next chapters, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So you've described in an amazing detail the sort of new normal of real estate. So let's just sort of take it from the top down. Inventory will likely forever be impacted by the vintage of the 3% mortgage, 4% mortgage, 5% mortgage.
I don't know about forever,
Yeah.
but
We got to wait. We got a while to burn that off.
so we have two factors at play, in my opinion, right now, as it pertains to real estate, residential real estate inventory.
Mm-hmm.
We have the interest rates are one thing,
Yep.
right? However, I don't believe 6.75% is a bad interest rate. I don't want to and I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyways. I really don't want to see rates come down much lower than where they are right now.
You have
Okay.
a stable market.
I don't agree with the executive branch of our government, which is
Right.
that's a big office, right? But I don't agree that the answer to the affordability crisis in our housing market right now is lower interest rates.
Right.
I feel that if we see a dramatic reduction in mortgage rates right now, the only thing that's going to do
Go back to it.
is it's going to cause everybody who's standing on the sidelines right now
Yeah.
to jump back in all at once,
Right.
which is going to spike demand, and all we're going to see is an increase in property values,
Same problem.
in sales prices. We're going to see an increase in sales prices,
Right.
and we're going to be right back to where we are right now, which
Yep.
leads me to the second factor
Yep.
that's causing a lockup in our real estate market, and that is the locked-in effect, right?
Okay.
So we have people who have purchased. So we're in 2025 right now. Interest rates at 6.75% are right about there.
Yep.
If you've bought a house anytime since 2010, more than likely. So I'll back up even further. It's 2009
Okay.
when I bought my first house,
Yep.
and I qualified for a 5% mortgage.
I bought my first house in 2009 too. Actually, now I
Cool.
found it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Same vintage.
I was coming out of it was in healthcare at the time,
Yeah.
nothing to do with real estate.
Yeah.
It was my first house. I had rented everything up until then. And I called my dad,
Yeah.
and I said, "Look, I got, they approved me for a 5% mortgage." And he's like, "What? That's amazing. That's like free money."
Yeah.
5%, right? Little did I know it was going to tick down and tick down and tick down.
Yeah.
And fast forward to 2020 with the pandemic, and I guess at some point, or in late 2010s or whatever,
Yeah.
interest rates got down as low as 4% in that time. But then
Okay,
2020, 2022, our interest rates got down to like 2.9%.
Yep.
Right. So what did we see then? People just clamoring. Compare that or pair that with the pandemic, which accelerated a lot of macroeconomic trends that were already kind
It
of
was a pull forward, right? They
exact.
basically expended all this demand. The 100-year storm came. Fed, as you point out, just threw money at it
Mhm.
and created this asymmetric situation where housing prices exploded.
They did because people were moving. They wanted it because of COVID. They wanted to get out of these really
Mobility
dense.
went up. Like, I got to
Exactly.
get out of New York. I got to get out of San Francisco. Leaving Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. I'm out of these dense cities and I'm moving out to the
Right.
the less densely populated communities, right? So everybody from New York moved to Port St. Lucie all at once.
Yeah.
Right. So all this movement and dramatic artificial increase in demand
Yeah.
dramatically skyrocketed the sales prices. And
Mhm.
that's when you had those bidding wars. And so we saw during that time frame from 2020 to 2023, it was Q1 of 2022. Q1 of 2022,
Okay.
we saw 20 to 30% year over year increases
Right.
in home prices, right?
Right.
Now, that was a problem because interest rates were so low that what people weren't spending on interest, they were able to spend on the principal balance of their mortgage.
Right.
Right. So if I can, the purchase price that a buyer is going to qualify for at a 6.5% rate is a dramatic difference from the purchase price that a buyer is going to qualify for at a 2.9% interest
Yeah.
rate. Dramatic difference. The only thing that changes is the interest rate.
Right.
But if I can pay, and again, and my philosophy as it pertains to buyers, especially if you're financing, not
Yeah.
cash buyers, but if you're financing, if
Yeah.
you've got to take a loan out to purchase a home, you're employed, you've got a certain amount of money you're bringing in every month.
Yeah.
People don't buy houses based on the purchase price. They don't. They think they do, originally, I mean, hundreds of buyers I've worked with,
Yeah.
the first phone call is, I want to spend no more than X on a house.
Okay.
And at first I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, sure, I can look for a house priced up to X,
Okay.
right? Come to find out that they probably couldn't afford X, or maybe they could afford more than X.
Yeah.
Because when the rubber hit the road and you started to talk to your lender,
Doing the calculation.
doing that calculations on what your debt was, what your income was, so on and so forth, well, it turns out that the price of the house doesn't matter at all. What matters is how much you can pay on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
right? So buyers don't buy houses based on the purchase price. Buyers buy houses based on the monthly cost. Your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and if you're buying with less than 20% equity,
Yeah.
using a 5 to 10% conventional VA or FHA loan,
Right.
you've got to factor in the mortgage insurance, which I think is only monthly on an FHA loan or a VA loan. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So but bottom line is that it's a monthly payment. Like, can I afford to pay
You're right.
$2,500?
People don't start with, "Hey, I make this amount of money. I'm gonna toggle that. I'm gonna transfer that into my buying power." They're like, "Oh, I like this house at 575, and I'm employed, and we have double income," but
Yeah.
they don't know if they
So
qualify yet.
this is how the home buying process goes.
Yeah.
We open up our app at 6:30 in the morning, our
Yep.
mail app, or mail, we check our email at 6 o'clock or 6:30 in the morning, scroll through, and I see an updated list from listingsource.com or
Yeah.
Zillow or
Yeah, Zillow.
realtor.com, right? And I click on that and I see a house priced for $550,000. And I'm like, I think I like that house. So therefore I can afford a house up to $550,000. And I'm not comfortable going over $550,000.
Right.
Okay. So how did you come to that number? How did you figure out $550,000 was the right budget for you?
Mental accounting. Just the
Oh,
same it's like your person you listed the house for.
it's all in the field.
Again, it's not blocked against her equity or what the market's saying. It's a mental accounting exercise. I want 550.
It's all in
Well,
the
I
field.
like this house, got a pool, got something, some yard that I like. Can I afford it? I don't know.
It's totally subjective.
Right.
It's totally how you feel. Like when you look at a house that's priced, say, if you like the house at 550, it's 4 bedroom with a pool.
Yeah.
But you look at that $700,000 house, it's a little bit bigger. You're like, I don't think I can afford $700,000. Well, you might not even be able to afford the $550,000 now,
Right.
especially if it's 20 years old with an old roof.
Yeah.
How do you know what insurance costs? Right. So people buy based on their monthly income,
Right.
what they can afford to pay, not the purchase price.
Yeah.
So if I told you, and I don't know what kind of house you live in,
Yeah.
but if I told you,
I'm potentially
which is,
yeah.
believe it or not, nowadays is far more affordable than actually owning a house.
Well,
And as a
I didn't
broker,
put any equity down. Like,
you're right, exactly. So, and as a broker, it's hard to say that,
Yeah.
like, okay, I almost never thought in my career
Yeah.
that I'd be telling people that it's actually more cost effective to rent right now than it is to buy.
if you can find them. I mean, rentals are hard to find.
The rental inventory is stacked right now.
Is it good?
Rental inventory is good. We're seeing rents come down.
Okay.
So we are seeing rents come down.
Okay.
So again, following that first 3 years of the
Yeah.
first 2.25 years of this decade, when there was literally no inventory,
Yeah.
what did that do to investors? What did that do for investors? Investors thought, hey, they're making $3,000 a month on 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom condos right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to invest 20 million in multifamily,
Okay.
and I'm going to build a piece of land and I'm going to get it entitled because this will never change, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to change,
Right.
right?
Never
So I'm going
does.
to buy a piece of land, get it entitled, and develop that, land into a multifamily building. Because if they're making $3,000 on one 2 bedroom condo, how much can I make on 200, right? So now we have what's also,
The Grant Cardone model.
yeah, right. So now we've had so much multifamily inventory come out of the ground
Yeah.
that there's a lot more online.
Okay.
And
Supply.
not only tenant supply is up, tenants and buyers have options right now,
Yeah.
right? So first time in my career that I ever thought that I never did think I would say that renting is more cost effective than owning a home, because there's the other principles at play, like your equity over time, how much money, with your rent, you're paying, as the real estate agents like to say, 100% interest when you're renting, right?
I agree with that, but
I do too, because you're not You're not keeping any of your equity. The entire check that
Yep.
cut when you rent
I'm paying
goes to
someone
the
else's
landlord.
mortgage. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Whereas opposed to, when
Yeah.
you're paying your mortgage, a portion of that goes towards your principal,
Yeah.
your taxes, which you derive benefit from as well.
Mhm.
So, there's a little bit more investment in the owning of a home rather than the renting of a home. However,
Yeah.
the first time home buyer, anytime I work with a first time home buyer right now, the conversation starts like, okay, you, especially if you're buying FHA,
Yeah.
even if you're buying like a 10 or 20% conventional, you need to be prepared to pay $2,800 to $3,200 a month for your mortgage.
Wow.
Now, in 2009, when I bought my house, my mortgage was under $1,000 a month. And if it crept over 1,000,
Yeah.
I panicked.
Yeah, but that's tethered to that $99,000 sale price versus
Exactly. Which is an
still paying out.
interesting point
Yeah.
because here's what I feel, not interest rates.
Mhm.
I don't believe that reducing the interest rates
Yeah.
um, is going to fix our housing affordability.
Right.
I think we are as an economy right now.
Mhm.
Let's see. Let me put this in like fat man terms. After you've eaten a large meal,
Okay.
and that feeling of like,
Just last night.
so after you've eaten a large meal, let's say you ate a bunch of pizza,
Yeah.
right? You get that feeling like you're like sluggish
I
and
could just do one more slice.
yeah. Now I want to go sit on the recliner and watch TV for the next 2 hours because I don't feel like moving at all.
Right.
I feel like that's a good analogy for our housing market.
Mhm.
We ate a bunch of pizza
Yep.
in the first part of this decade,
Mhm.
and now we're dealing with it.
Demand's been expended now.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
how to deal with that pizza, we all have our different,
Yeah.
do we go for a jog? Do we take some Pepto-Bismol or whatever?
Yeah.
But that's where we are right now. We're in that
Yep.
insulin dump.
It's a new normal, suppression for a while. I thought you had some really interesting thoughts on so the executive branch has passed a big, beautiful new bill, which you and I talked we kicked it around a little bit about trickle-down economics and, like, stuff flowing down into the economy. I thought the way you framed it was interesting that you believe in some instances that trickle-down doesn't work because there's basically the benefits that come to individuals, business owners, anyone has, a W-2 versus what comes to corporations. There's a big difference in what actually makes it out into the economy. So
Corporations and shareholders.
corporations and shareholders,
Right.
that's the key,
The
right?
shareholders most, I mean,
Right,
corporations, yes, and shareholders, right?
right.
Stakeholders in those companies. Uh, so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna back up again to the great financial crisis,
Right.
and I'm gonna give you a little
Yeah,
anecdotal
yeah, anecdotes are good.
illustration here.
Yeah,
My father's an engineer
okay,
down in West Palm for the last 47 years now.
awesome.
As I was growing up, I watched him do amazing things down in the city of West Palm Beach. He
Yep,
was the mayor, late 80s of West Palm Beach. He's been on the county commission, the solid waste authority. Now he's for a while, the chairman of the downtown development authority for the city of West Palm Beach. So he's always been involved in politics, but he's been an engineer.
he's an industrialist.
He
Helped
has
build up the area, right?
very much so.
Okay,
He's currently involved in the Nora project that's going on down there, and
okay,
just basically right up in the middle of the Wall Street of the South,
gotcha.
as an engineer.
Right,
Very well connected with the city of West Palm Beach, the county and the Palm Beach County. Um, but as a youngster, growing up in West Palm and northern Palm Beach County, I watched him build an engineering business, and I didn't know anything about any of it at
yeah.
the time.
You didn't know the nuts and bolts, you just knew he worked
I
incredibly hard, was incredibly smart.
always working. He did projects everywhere from Zimbabwe to Siberia to Bermuda, Honduras. The man was always traveling somewhere. I watched him learn Russian. I watched him learn Polish. I watched him learn Italian, French.
Okay.
So I had to say that I'm, proud of him is an understatement.
He's a polymath.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, he built an engineering business for Kennis and Associates,
Okay,
and then East Bay Group after that. And you know, during the expansion, our economic expansion, real estate development, and so on and so forth, in the early 2000 aughts, and so up until 2006. All I heard from him was that they were expanding. I would stop by his office, I'd go say hi, and I'd see more and more engineers, more and more whatever other positions are required to run an engineering office.
Right.
And I watched him grow an engineering business. Um, and I didn't know what I was watching
Yeah.
until about 2011.
Okay.
East Bay Group was um, had moved from downtown West Palm Beach, Clematis Datura area. They had bought a commercial office space in North Palm Beach in probably 2005 or so.
Right.
So right at the end of that real estate expansion, right before the collapse, right before the real estate bubble burst.
Gotcha.
Right. So him and I used to have breakfast every Friday morning. Right. So that was kind of our thing. I
Awesome.
lived down there and we made it a point to have breakfast every Friday morning.
Okay.
Just to catch up and spend some time. And
Absorb anything that he had to say because it was probably.
well, I wish I was intelligent enough to say that I was absorbing everything he had to say. But even at that time in my what I don't know if it was mid-20s or so.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I was that intelligent at that time.
Well, somebody was absorbed.
Something was absorbed. It was either the scrambled eggs or some knowledge and wisdom. I don't know. So anyway, the discussion always was around what kind of projects,
Right.
who's the new engineers? What are you getting into? Where are you
Yep.
traveling to next? The conversation changed in 2007 and 2008, and it became more about surviving, but more about who he was going to have to let go.
Okay.
So as real estate development came to a abrupt halt in
Right.
2007, all of his projects dried up.
Okay.
Cash flow through East Bay Group stopped. And I didn't realize what I was looking at the time.
Yeah.
But I started paying attention to economics a lot after that because what I saw was the demise of this company that he built that I was so proud of to be a part of. Not that I was a part of it. I was just standing on the sidelines looking in the front door.
You're intimately aware of the effort and
Yeah.
the wins, the losses,
Yeah.
travel.
I watched him build this.
Yeah.
And so emotionally I was invested.
Right.
However, in 2007, 2008, the conversation started to change to not what projects you were doing, but who you had to let go that day.
Yeah.
So what used to be enjoyable conversations turned into, somber conversations.
Right.
I saw him, break down a couple times.
Yeah.
Because these are the people that he hired who he felt personally responsible for providing a paycheck and
Right.
providing, a job.
Right.
And now he was going to have to let 1, 2, 3 of his best employees go because the work wasn't there.
Yeah.
And eventually, he made it through, East Bay Group made it through a lot of it. But in 2011, they finally claimed bankruptcy.
Okay.
They had purchased an office building in North Palm Beach, and then they couldn't afford it.
Right.
Had to let it go.
Yeah.
East Bay Group was consumed by a larger engineering firm that
Okay.
had made it through. But anyway,
Bankruptcy is a timeout. Our mid executive in America has claimed bankruptcy. Filed bankruptcy. How many times? 5.
Same.
Yeah, it's a tool for. I mean, I hear what you're saying. But again, the cycle does this is what you're describing.
So what I didn't realize at the time, and I there was a lot of office furniture left in there, and he let me have some of it, and there were some really nice things, and I think I still have a bookshelf from that, but I didn't realize until I just saw it all fall apart. And the day that I went and helped him clean out his office for the last time, I think it hit me the hardest that economics is important.
Yep.
We have to look at history
Yeah.
as an indication of what the future is going to be, right? So as I watched him and East Bay Group dissolve,
Yep.
not him, but East Bay Group,
Yeah.
it started to hit me really hard. And in 2011, I was still in healthcare. I took the contract gig and I found podcasts. And I just happened to come upon an economic podcast
Okay.
that I have listened to religiously since 2011.
Start taking notes here.
So American Public Media Marketplace is actually what it's called.
Okay.
And it's not left or right leaning. It's
Yeah.
objective. It's numbers. Again, history, is an indication of what the future is going to look like.
Yeah.
We've been in certain places before. And so I've listened to every single episode of that podcast, sometimes twice to three times if it's got some really good, a lot of it, I mean, it's always got good information in it.
Right.
However, there are some that are, I just like, I'll go back and listen to it over and over and over again.
It's timeless. It's applicable to any time, any period of time.
It is. However, they are delivering news, real-time policy, and how we've seen this before, and
Yeah.
how. So, for instance, I'll give you an example: inflation that occurred in the 2020 and earlier in the decade, right?
Yep.
Prior to that inflation taking hold in our economy and everybody becoming acutely aware of what inflation was,
Yes, right.
Which I don't really think that everybody understands. I think the majority of our population don't quite understand what inflation actually is. I
Right.
really just don't. I think people think that inflation is it is a rise in prices, but in all actuality, it's not a rise in prices. It's the measure of the rate and the rise of prices.
Right.
We're always going to
Rate
have
of change. Yeah.
inflation,
Mhm.
right? And inflation has to be there in order for us to have a healthy economy.
Well, population's growing, right? So
Right.
unless the supply infrastructure keeps up, there's always going to be inflation
Yeah,
at some
right.
level.
Exactly. So, anyway, I've rambled a lot. You asked me a question. Oh, it was
Yeah, I was thinking about so what I thought your perspective on like the big beautiful
trickle down
bill, for
economics.
example, like that they'll release all these, whether it's tax benefits or eventually lowering rates, that it may not impact the economy in its intended
Yeah.
consequences. Because what I think where you were going with this, with the corporations will
Right.
insource
Yeah.
and build the balance sheet.
Yeah. So that's right. I was
Yeah.
I was explaining as to how I
Yeah.
started paying attention to the
Right.
macroeconomics
Sure.
in our world. And so trickle down economics uh brought on, the idea of trickle down economics brought on by the Reagan administration
Right.
at the time, at that time worked out,
Right.
right? So if you're giving the tax breaks to the larger corporations, the idea, and at the time it proved to be correct,
Yeah.
that corporations were going to hang on to that money and they were going to invest it in increasing the amount of jobs. They were going to expand their companies,
Right.
creating jobs, investing in research and development,
Right.
taking our economy forward, caring for our entire population.
Yep.
At the time, it worked. Since the turn of the century, however, and the reason I brought up this podcast is because this is the podcast that keeps tabs on are the effects of trickle down economics still carrying over to the general population,
Right.
right? You and me,
Yep.
the guys that are paying rent or paying paying our mortgage or whatever,
Filling
right?
our car with gas, buying eggs at the grocery store.
Cash flow through the economy, the consumer, which is responsible for 60% of the spending in this economy, right? Not the corporations. Consumer spending is responsible for, I think, 60% of the cash flow
Okay.
through our economy,
That makes sense.
right? So trickle down economics during the Reagan administration worked. Since the turn of the century, what we're seeing is that trickle down economics, the corporations are not
Right.
putting it into an increased amount of jobs.
Right.
They're
They're
not.
not spending it. They're taking it to the balance sheet. They're doing share buybacks. And then we have to sort of think about it's such a tech economy these days that Google and
Dramatic increase in productivity.
they just don't need to hire as many people.
Yeah,
Especially with this
artificial intelligence.
AI revolution.
Yeah. Artificial intelligence following the initial capital investment, as far as I know, is no more a cost. It's one capital investment.
Yeah.
And you're not paying a salary to an AI, right?
I would hate to be a college grad these days because who knows where they're going to slot in. If you're not a professional, doctor, lawyer, I don't know.
Service based, right?
Right.
So, I'm not entirely familiar with what is all in the big beautiful bill, but as it pertains to trickle down economics,
Tax cuts.
I've seen that based on what I've heard since the turn of the century, trickle down economics does not prove
Right.
to benefit the common consumer
Yeah.
in our economy. What happens is these companies hang on to the tax savings,
Right.
and they, like you said, put it on their balance sheets.
You said the right word is a shareholder.
Exactly.
It's-
Right. The
They're
benefit
answering
was your shareholders,
Yeah.
which, I'd love to say that I was, but I'm not a big shareholder in
Right.
these larger companies.
Yeah.
So these things don't affect the majority of our population in a positive fashion.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, the Fed will sort of direct us. I've done a little bit of work on this. So the inflation comps for the next like 3 or 4 months, the comps were lower last year. So it was at the third quarter of 2024, inflation comps weren't as high. So we're going to see some fluttering up of inflation because this year it's comping against a low year over year inflation CPI comp. So we're not going to see a lot of rate talk into the back end of the year. But as we hit November, December, January, February, March, the comps get easier from this beginning of this year, which will then be beginning of 2026. And we're running into the situation that Jerome Powell will basically be leaving the central bank. We've got the executive branch saying, hey, we can't wait for interest rate cuts. So I think as we get into 2026, I think it's inevitable. I hate to say, hey, Captain Obvious, like what's your forecast? I think we could see 2 to 4 rate cuts next year.
I'd
And
say that that would be. I will.
it's aggressive. And
It's very
again,
aggressive.
we're going to talk about the problem that creates, which is it doesn't solve the affordability. It doesn't assist the insurance companies with pricing their risk. It doesn't settle the tax bills that are due for reassessments.
Mhm.
So we're going to be back in this situation where, we're going to see these housing prices, sort of go up, and we're going to again be the fundamental problem will not have changed.
So my theory is that if interest rates on mortgages are reduced,
Yeah.
we're gonna see, like I said, a dramatic change.
We're going to cut the Fed funds rate, and then you and I have discussed that it may not actually trickle down. It doesn't trickle down basis point for basis point into the lender's rate,
Right.
but it'll go down like directionally.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
assuming that the 10-year treasury stays stable or kind
right.
of that, or
Exactly.
whatever the relationship is there. But
Yeah,
what happens if inflation comes roaring back
right,
as a result of the federal funds rate reduction?
right.
It's one of the few tools that the Fed chair, or the Federal Reserve, has in dealing with inflation.
I know.
So, and they like to refer to it as a blunt force tool, right?
This,
So you have your bonds, your cash flow, either injecting quantitative easing or quantitative tightening that the Fed can do, or interest rates. Those are the two things that the Fed has, the two tools I believe that the
yeah,
Fed has to control,
right.
monetary policy
Yeah,
in our economy. So I don't believe that dropping the Fed funds rate
yeah,
as a as a as a solution to the housing affordability crisis that we've
100%.
been in.
Yeah,
So I mean, the housing affordability crisis isn't new. Okay, it's not new. Okay, there was a housing affordability crisis in 2020. I can tell you, I lived through it. I sold houses in it, and it wasn't because interest rates were too high. It was because there was too much demand for too little supply.
right.
Right. So, um, I don't think that dropping mortgage rates is the solution to the housing affordability.
Yeah,
Uh,
just creates more leverage in the economy. That's all.
it does. What I've observed in the past 5 years is that the at least in my area here in the Treasure Coast, the average home buyer has shown their cards. They've shown that they can sustain at a $3,000 a month on average
Interesting.
mortgage payment.
Okay.
$3,000 a month.
Right.
Again, the first conversation I have with somebody who's interested in buying a home for the first time is like, hey, look, you got to be able to, you
Yeah.
got to be able to, unless you have a substantial down payment,
Right.
and some of that you want to put towards a rate buy down, you want to buy
That's
some,
really interesting.
you want to
That
buy some,
makes a lot of sense.
right?
Yeah.
Is they've shown their cards.
Hmm.
The home buyer right now has shown their cards that
Right.
they can afford $3,000 a month. In 2009, when I bought my house, you told me I was paying $3,000 a month. No, I'm a renter. I am not a buyer.
Right.
Right. So, that's, imagine, okay, late 20s, you got a wife and a new kid,
Yep.
maybe a dog, right? Maybe a hamster or a snake or something like that.
And we like pizza.
I like pizza too.
And we're eating pizza.
So, but and you think, okay, my lease is coming up in a couple months. I think I want to buy a house. Let me go start looking. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to pay more than, I don't know. These houses seem nice, and they're about $400,000 on average here in Port St. Lucie. $430,000 is the median home value. So let's go a little bit below that,
Yeah.
$400,000. All right. And you talk to your lender, I've got, $25,000, which is a whole lot more than most first-time home buyers have. Realistically, they don't
Right.
have $25,000, but that's what it costs to put 3.5% down and cover closing costs.
Gotcha.
You're looking at a $25,000 cash to close
Okay.
without any kind of concessions or help from, lenders or builders or whatever.
Right.
$25,000 in this economy, when you've been paying $2,500 a month in rent, trying to save up $25,000 as a first-time home buyer, that's daunting, man.
It is.
Can you imagine? Like, you and I are what? We're like, I'm in my late 40s. In my late 40s. Oh God, did I just say that? Late 40s? I said it, and it's on camera, and you got it recorded. Ugh.
I'm 50 next year. So I'm older than
46.
Okay.
They still call it for mid 40s. But I imagine, like right now, I don't want to pay
Yeah.
$3,000 a month in my
Right.
mortgage. I don't. It's uncomfortable. It's not. I mean, you know, depending on how the real estate market's doing, it's not even doable. It's a lot. And I mean, I do all right financially, but
Yeah.
you know, okay, somebody who's making $20 an hour, two income household, $20 an hour, right? 20
You live in
$22
Hidwell.
of yeah, you are. I mean, how do you afford? Yes, we have an affordability crisis on the real estate market here, but it hasn't. It's not. It hasn't just started. It started in 2020
Yeah.
with a dramatic reduction in the inventory. And oh, by the way, interest rates were 2.9% then. It was an affordability issue then as well, even with low interest rates.
Yeah.
All right. So lower mortgage rates, in my opinion, are not the answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Insurance. That's a huge component right now for the
Well,
mortgage
you're
payment.
fundamentally blocking the insurance distribution. The insurance companies say, all right, left tail, we get an earthquake. There was an 8.7 earthquake in Russia yesterday. So there was like a tsunami warning on the West Coast. Like the insurers are like, oh boy.
Mhm.
Okay. But let's just take that aside. Just, global warming, weather is getting more extreme. You see it here. And, we've been, knock on wood, is this wood? On the East Coast, we haven't had that many catastrophic storms. The West Coast of Florida, different story. Okay. So, like, maybe geographically we're protected a little bit, but overall, like you think about, zoom out the 25, 30, 50, 100, the century perspective is like weather is getting more extreme. Risk is getting harder to price. Like insurers don't want to be caught with a bunch of, you know, exposure to a housing stock that can get obliterated.
Mhm.
So how do we solve that? I mean, unless Elon Musk is going to take over, all the power generation, all the automobiles, like we're in a spot which
Insurance is I don't
unsolvable.
know what the answer is to that. I really don't. And well, though, so my answer to insurance is buy a brand new house. That's
Right.
my answer to insurance
That's
is
a
that
good way to do it.
right.
Unless we live in bunkers or live in places where there's no weather.
Right. So, with a brand new house, your insurance is usually a much lower rate than it is with a
Right.
home that's like 15 or 20 years old.
That's super interesting. That's well,
So if you buy a brand new home,
yeah.
you're so let's use the standard 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home here in Port St. Lucie, concrete block, one that's a brand new home versus one that's 15 years old.
Right.
It's got a 15-year-old roof, dated appliances, not up to maybe any kind of code changes. Off the top of my head, and this is just a very, uh,
Blood calculation. Yes.
exactly right. So just an estimate, all right?
Yeah.
You're looking at about $3,000 a year
Okay.
on your insurance premium
Okay.
versus a brand new home is going to run you about $1,800 a
Okay.
year. So it's a dramatic difference,
Right.
and that divided over 12 months dramatically affects the mortgage payment,
Yep.
right? So the answer to insurance, in my opinion, is just buy a brand new home, but you can't always do that either, right? You can't always buy a brand new home.
Right.
I mean, maybe you could, but
If the home
there's
builders are
large
cranking them out, I mean,
they do, but, there's a dramatic inventory in, resale homes as well. Eventually, the builders are gonna they're gonna run out of land. So right now, the answer to insurance is buy a brand new home, but that's not gonna last forever.
We're
Insurance.
going to bunker. That's your
I like the
solution.
bunker.
You're the practical solution. I'm the guy that's like, we got to live where there's no weather.
That's right.
No snow,
Concrete
no
above
earthquakes,
Blue,
no
a
floods.
23 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I agree. So insurance is a huge problem as far as affordability is concerned. There are people being priced out of their homes right now because of the insurance premiums. And I don't know the solution to that because, of course, insurance companies assume the risk, right? And they've covered a lot of,
Right.
a lot of claims over the past, what, 5 years, 10 years,
Uh-huh.
with the hurricanes, floods, fires, all that other stuff, right?
I mean, California almost burnt all the way down
Almost all of it.
in
Yeah,
California.
exactly. Right. So, I don't know the answer to that. It's a calculation. Maybe the answer is to not finance our homes and just pay cash for all the homes,
Right.
save up money to replace the home, save up the equivalent of replacement costs. But
Right.
that's a whole different system
Yeah.
that's just not feasible at this time.
Yeah.
Right. So insurance is something else that's driving the affordability issue here. I don't necessarily subscribe to the idea that taxes are contributing to the affordability crisis.
Okay.
I really don't. Municipal taxes are tied, and especially if it's your primary residence, homes. If your property is homesteaded,
So yeah.
your property taxes should only go up no more than 3%. The assessed value shouldn't go up more than 3% annually. So I don't buy the idea that taxes are
That's interesting.
a
For
huge
for a
problem.
primary resident, like
Homesteaded
if
property.
we're homesteaded property. But I mean for the snowbird that comes down to Florida.
Okay. But the person that owns the second home,
Right. No,
it's
I
discretionary,
hear you.
right? It's discretionary, right? So, okay, I'm sorry that, your second home
Right.
is costing you so much in taxes.
Because honestly,
Sounds like affluent problems to me.
it is. It's first world problems. But honestly, in the title company, we've seen 5 or 6, 7 files this year where suddenly, annual taxes went from 2,000 to 10,000.
Dramatically.
And what the realtor didn't do,
Oh.
which I know you do, is you look at the tax bill and the assessed value. Okay, this thing is assessed at $100,000. We're trading it at 450.
Uh-huh.
So what did you think taxes were going to do?
Exactly. That happens not only there, but if like you said, you're right. Not a homesteaded primary residence, a buyer purchasing a home where the previous owners had been homesteaded
Right.
for 15 years.
Right.
We field that question all the time. Is like, oh well, the taxes are only $2,000 on this property. That sounds like a great opportunity for me. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
The taxes are going to reset when you purchase the property.
Right.
So you need to understand that $2,000 tax bill that you're looking at right now
Right.
is going to be $6,000 to $7,000
Right.
following. So when your mortgage payment dramatically increases, and that happens not only on the resale of a home for the homesteaded,
Yeah.
owner for the previous 15 years, but also on new construction,
Yeah.
on a brand new build where the tax bill for a unimproved
Right.
vacant piece of land was $700 annually.
There's no structure.
You are now going to be reset to $6,000 to $7,000 here in Port St. Lucie.
I've had so many conversations where they're like, "Why did you prorate this way?" I said, "Well, we prorate on prior year's taxes. We're not the tax authority. We have no idea. We know if you're trading this thing at 450 and it's assessed at 100, like it's going that way.
Absolutely.
But we don't assess, we don't calculate the millage, the assessed value.
I'll share with you one more anecdote real quick, where when I first bought that house in 2009, the assessed values were still coming down.
Right.
And I didn't know anything about real estate at the time, but the assessed values were still coming down, and somehow my mortgage payment actually reduced, and I got a refund check from my escrow. And I was like, what is this? This is a $1,500 check. How did this happen? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to put it in the bank and spend it, but whatever, it was great. I had $1,500 extra that I wasn't anticipating. So good times.
It was a more,
Long gone,
yeah.
good times. I'm not really interested in seeing that economy again. That was the after effects of a really, 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 really ugly time.
Right.
I mean, when I first started selling houses, most of the homes I showed were vacant.
Yeah.
Had been vacant for a long time. No power for a long time. I honestly thought I might come across like a corpse or something
Yep.
like that.
Right.
A lot of times I had to use my cell phone flashlight to show homes
Right.
because the lights weren't on. That's the market I started selling houses at.
In the rapture.
Yes, exactly. So, I've seen a couple of markets that I just don't
Yeah.
really want to see anymore. That one, and I mean, I make light of it, but in those same houses were closets that were full of children's clothes.
Right.
You'd walk
Sad.
into this house and it was foreclosed. Nobody had been into it for 6 months or more, but there was still a closet full of kids' clothes and toys and
Or
beds and stuff like that, where people literally just left.
right.
The one night, one day, they just had to go.
Yeah.
I saw things like people ripping out full shower enclosures because they were so upset with the bank that was foreclosing on their house. It was ugly, man.
It really-
And I didn't realize what I was looking at the time. It was just a learning experience for me.
Yeah.
But seeing what I've seen over the past 15 years,
Yeah.
not only with my father's business and
Yeah.
what they went through, and that was something that really made me start paying attention to macroeconomics and being very concerned with the policies that come out of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Because I think as humans, we have a short memory.
Sure do.
We have a short memory of what that feeling was. When I first bought my home, and again, I said I was in healthcare,
Yeah.
there were a lot of my friends who were in the construction business. And following 2009, I had two of my buddies living with me because they couldn't find jobs.
Yeah.
When your unemployment rate in the United States spikes to 12%, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It is ugly.
Right.
It is not good. And so I'm praying that we don't see anything that causes either one of those markets again. Not the one where the interest rates were really low,
Yeah.
and not the one where the unemployment rate was very high.
Right.
I don't want to see either one of those. I like equilibrium,
Yeah.
predictability, certainty. And apparently a lot of businesses do too.
I agree.
A lot of businesses who are interested in making capital investments in warehouses and infrastructure
Yeah.
like to see predictability as well.
Right. Well, it's an amazing, invaluable perspective to see in the cycle like you have. You're an advisor from the ultimate sense of the word. You have a great handle on macroeconomics. Most realtors don't. You obviously have an amazing knowledge base of how to create value here locally and what, people should be looking at, investing in and, really seeing into their next chapter.
So I'm going to share one very, more than likely, very unpopular opinion.
Let's do it.
I'm going to do it right now, right? So I've said that I don't believe that lowering interest rates is
Right.
the answer to fixing our affordability crisis. I really don't in the real estate market. Don't think reducing the mortgage rates. Let them fall to where they may.
Yep.
But do not try to influence them.
Yeah. Equilibrium.
Equilibrium, right? We have the locked-in effect where people have 2.93% interest rates. They're never going to go. They aren't going to go anywhere for 30 years. They're not going anywhere.
Yep.
They're not going to sell that house, right? They're going to stay put more than likely unless something forces them out, and until the pain of staying the same. I'm sorry, until the pain of changing.
Right.
Sorry, one more time. Until the pain of staying the same is less than the pain, or is more outweighs the pain of changing.
Right.
Right. What I'm
Yep.
trying to say is that people aren't going to change. The people aren't going to let go of those rates.
Status
until
quo,
they
if
have
less
to-
painful than changing, is
Exactly.
what will happen.
How as it goes, it's the pain of staying the same. The pain of change, the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain of changing.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to hang on to this 3% mortgage rate until I absolutely have to.
Right.
Until I absolutely have to let it go. And more than likely, a lot of times it's going to be out of my cold, dead fingers. Right. So.
Is that Charlton Heston?
That's right. That's
He's
exactly
holding
right.
a Muska, though.
That's right. So, interest rates, I don't believe are the answer to the housing affordability crisis right now. Insurance, I don't have an answer for. I don't know anything. I don't know much about the insurance world, and I don't know if there's a fix to that aside from maybe trying to fix global warming. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, the new normal is here, and that's all the referendum to have the best advisor.
So, my unpopular opinion is as follows: is now. And as a listing agent, I'm going to put my neck on the line here. I'm going to put it out there, right? And insurance is, what are we going to do about insurance, right?
Yep.
I don't know. Interest rates if we see our administration try to artificially influence interest rates, I think it's going to spell trouble. And I don't think it's going to fix the economy. I don't think it's going to fix the housing affordability.
Interesting.
Here is what I think needs to happen right now. It's a buyer's market. So I'm going to come out and I'm a listing agent. I prefer to have the inventory. I want to be the listing agent. I want to advise sellers or help sellers find buyers and broker that transaction in a
Yep.
fair and transparent way. So I'm going to be fair and transparent and say, look, our inventory is spiking in real estate in the residential side.
Yeah.
Our inventory has spiked. We're seeing it increasing. We got sellers who want a certain price, but realistically, they will take a lower number. They might list their house at 550, but I bet if they want to move, they'll take 495. The problem with the buyers is that they're too afraid to go in aggressive. So I think right now, if you're even thinking about buying a home,
Yeah.
it's time. Don't worry about interest rates. 6.5%. You can refinance in the future. All right. But 6.5%, honestly, 6.75%, whatever it is not abnormal. Here's what's abnormal. You pair the 6.75% interest rate with the dramatic appreciation that we experienced at the beginning of the decade.
Mhm.
That is where we have our affordability crisis.
Right.
We had 20 to 30% increases in our prices in 2020 to 2022. They haven't come down yet, but they're starting to.
Yeah.
We're starting to see housing prices come down. It's moderate, but as a buyer, if you're thinking about buying a home, now is the time. I heard a stat yesterday from the Tripwire podcast. You ever listen to Tripwire?
Haven't, no.
Got to listen to Tripwire.
Okay.
American Public Media Marketplace and Tripwire. Tripwire is more on the commercial real estate side, but they did a segment on the residential market, and they're very, very, very data heavy. Okay, they put a stat out yesterday that 40% of home builders reduced their prices last month.
Wow.
Home builders. That's brand new homes.
Inventory. Yeah.
The same home builders that are offering $20,000 towards closing costs and further rate buy downs, following them buying their own rates down to 4.99%.
Right.
So they're offering the lower interest rates and they're offering $20,000 in closing cost concessions. Those are the ones that actually reduced their prices. So those are the competitive sellers. Right. So if the competitive sellers
And the deep pockets, by the way.
exactly. If the competitive sellers are the ones that are actually that have reduced their prices, the standard homeowner, seller, owner occupant, or whatever it is, they're going to come down off their perch. And as buyers in this real estate market,
Yeah.
you need to lead the charge.
Yeah.
Going aggressive. And here's why. Right? You like that house? It's priced at 550. Offer 490. And you know what? If they don't take 490, well, guess what? You have 50 other options right now. Go after the next one. Don't worry about your agent. If your broker is efficient in writing up contracts, whatever. We just change the address, change the numbers on the contract, and send it to the next person.
Interesting.
All right? And I'm going to say, because most sellers are going to be like, you're not a real estate agent. But the fact is that this is just macroeconomics. It's supply and demand. And no one's out there saying this right now. As a buyer, it's time to get aggressive.
Right.
I think the answer to the affordability issue in real estate right now is buyers. I need to see buyers go in aggressive. I want to see them go in and make the most aggressive offers that they can. Go for a lower price, go for a smaller earnest money deposit, go for whatever you want because the inventory is out there and you have options. So now is the time. And you know what? If you get your mortgage at 6.75% and the rates come down to 5%, then you refi at that time, right?
Love the house, rent the rate. That's super interesting stuff. How long, I mean, in your crystal ball, what are your thoughts on how long the buyer's market will last, do you think?
I think it's gonna be a while.
Mhm.
I think we're gonna have to see again. I'm gonna use that eating half a pizza analogy where
Yeah.
our housing market is in that insulin dump.
Yep.
period right now where it's just kind of laid out on the couch watching football or something like
Yeah.
that. And that's going to last for a while. It's going to take it's going to take a while for the people who assumed rates at 3% and really low interest rates to cycle out of that, and it's going to take buyers hammering down sellers who have enjoyed 20 to 30% appreciation over a very, very short period of time, right? Listen, another interesting statistic, or not a statistic, but an observation that I
Yep.
noticed in the market, in our Port St. Lucie market.
Right.
I'll get to it in a second. But right now, the buyers have the power. They have the leverage. It's time to get aggressive as buyers. And as listing agent, I know that's not popular. And I go on my next listing appointment, and this person's going to be like, "Hey, I saw you say this," and it's like, "Look, you know, you you can't demand what you used to be able to demand. It just is. It's not happening." And the fact is that buyers shouldn't have to spend $3,000 a month on their mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And the biggest component of that is the principal balance of your mortgage.
Well, you're being realistic. You're trying to get the transaction done and trying to equitize the seller, which is where we get into this whole friction with MLS and Compass,
Uh-huh.
because you're describing the situation where, okay, unrealistic seller puts house on market, 550. The days on market on the MLS kicks up, okay, 50, 60, 70. Guess what happens to
Inventory.
your price potential?
Exactly.
Not going to improve. Now,
Exactly.
Compass is saying, in their exclusive marketplace, which is not on the MLS, we don't talk about days on market.
Uh-huh.
So,
I'm sure your seller does.
well, yeah, no, the seller will know.
Yeah.
But they're saying the MLS is detrimental to sellers because as the days on market kicks up with unrealistic prices, your resale opportunity is going to plummet.
And that's cool and all. You don't have to, you
Yeah.
don't have to mention, if you want to close your eyes to the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
So talk about carrying costs.
Yeah.
If you're an owner occupant, okay, great. You're still paying taxes, energy, and as you normally would in any house. But if you're an investor or you're a second homeowner, your carrying costs are eating away at your bottom line. Insurance, energy, taxes, every single day you hang on to that property is taken away from your bottom line.
Yeah.
It's the time cost of money, the time value of money,
Yeah.
right? Not to mention that, okay, we don't want to talk about days on market. That to me, and I had never heard that, but that to me means, again, it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Because days on market, okay, you have 20 days on the market. Well, that guy's got 90 days on the market, and the dude coming up has 10 days on the market.
Right.
So this guy 90, 70 days ago didn't have any competition, but the longer you sit on the market, the more competition you have.
Right.
So, and we're
It's
seeing
amazing. Yeah.
we've seen a 15% increase in inventory in the first part of this year in real estate inventory, residential real estate inventory.
Right.
And, another thing I want to mention is that the real estate market right now is so asset specific.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very asset specific.
Right.
So, I recently sold a home down in Flamingo Park in downtown West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Those homes are literally 100 years old. Literally 100 years old, built in 1925, 1924, built with construction that I've never seen before, right? Like some sort of weird
Stucco?
stacked, no, not even stucco. It was like literally stacked, you know, terracotta looking bricks
Oh,
kind of
boy.
thing, but not like the brick that you think of when you mention the word
Yeah.
brick. It's literally, I
I
don't
really don't even know how masonry brick, but
yes, I don't even know. I mean, it might have been like thatch or something like that, but it was built, forever ago.
yeah.
Those homes in that area geographically are selling for somewhere around $900, $950 a square foot. 1,700, 1,800 square foot homes selling for well north of $1 million. So I'm telling you that the inventory, the sales, the activity of different real estate asset classes is dramatically different from one to the
Yeah.
next, right? Homes that were built 2 years ago here in Port St. Lucie,
Yeah.
basically brand new, sitting for 300 days, sitting for 100 days, sitting for 150 days,
Mm.
right? They're competing with the new builders. There aren't any builders putting out 100-year-old homes right now.
Yeah.
There's no more land down in downtown West Palm. So if you look at the condo market, versus the single family home market in Port St. Lucie, the condo market in South Florida in general, the luxury market in, say, Palm Beach.
Yeah.
They're all moving at very different rates. The luxury market in places like downtown West Palm Beach, the new Wall Street of the South,
Yeah.
they're flying off the shelf, right? However, rumor has it that Miami is one of the worst real estate markets in the country right now.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
I think-
Miami,
Well, because isn't it the condo concentration?
condos, huge problem.
Yeah.
Condos are a huge problem right now. Anywhere in the state of Florida.
A lot of those condos have underfunded HOA.
HOAs hitting with big,
Yeah.
nasty assessments.
Right.
So, interest rates are one component, but the fact is that we saw an abnormal rate of appreciation in the
Right.
beginning of the decade, and has caused so many specific little issues that affect different asset classes
Yeah.
in our real estate market. So,
Yeah.
And there's science behind all of it. There's science behind all of it. It's not, you can feel however you want.
Yeah.
As a home buyer or a home seller.
Yeah.
Take your emotion out of it. Look at the science.
Yeah.
Look at the objective measures and the evidence of the real estate market.
Look at the 90-day price, which didn't work. Look at the 30-day price, which didn't work.
Right. You can keep your property on the market at $550,000.
Right.
But more than likely, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you're going to lose a lot more money than you would have if you would have
Agreed.
properly strategized at the beginning.
Like, real estate is so idiosyncratic. It's not white paint, right? It's not homogenous. Every property is a little different. Like, there's something good, something bad, and then you get into the the emotion and the mental part of it. Like, this is perfect for me or not. This is perfect for me, and then get into
So
all the complexities.
I think that as far as affordability is concerned, I think it's a matter of time.
Right.
We got to let run through our system. Whatever happened at the beginning of this decade, if we start to mess with it, it's going to perpetuate the problem.
Right.
However, if we let market forces, capitalistic forces dictate the interest rates and equilibrium price of real estate,
Yep.
we'll get through it and we'll actually find a far more peaceful and predictable real estate market.
Right.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah, man.